Discover the incredible nanny who transformed a millionaire CEO's twins in just 1 week. Revealed. Lucas Carter stood in his sleek glass office overlooking Silicon Valley, the sprawling tech haven that had been both his playground and prison. At 40, he was a titan of industry, his success measured in stock prices and accolades. Yet as he paced the polished floor, an unsettling emptiness gnawed at him. He longed for the raucous laughter of his twin children, Mia and Ethan, but with each passing day, the distance between them stretched further. Their bedtime stories had been replaced with late-night conference calls, and every quiet dinner table felt suffocated by unspoken disappointment. Was he an accomplished businessman or a father losing touch? Anxiety prickled at his skin as he replayed the moments of neglect. His family was an afterthought to his whirlwind life of meetings, gala events, and financial strategies. How had he let this happen? Sleep-deprived and riddled with regrets, Lucas found himself staring at his phone, a constant reminder of his responsibilities he was failing at. The manic pace of his career was now an oppressive weight, pressing down on his very soul with relentless reminders of his failings as a father. His every ambition felt like a dagger, leaving scars that could never heal. But then Grace entered their lives, an enigmatic whirlwind of a nanny from the Midwest. She arrived like a force of nature, charging into the sterile atmosphere of Lucas's home with her practicality and warmth. Initially skeptical, he questioned how a woman like Grace could possibly understand the complexities of raising his children. Their needs were beyond the surface. They lived under a father's shadow that seemed to eclipse everything else. The thought gripped him painfully. Was he, and his success, the reason for their withdrawal? As days passed, Grace wove herself into their lives, painting with the twins, coaxing laughter from them like pulling threads from an intricate tapestry. Lucas's heart clenched when he overheard them talking about their father's relentless pursuit of success, their little voices tinged with bitterness. He watched the transformation unfold from the fringes, feelings of guilt piercing through him like ice. Mia and Ethan's newfound joy felt foreign, a reminder of the connection he had forsaken. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The more Grace connected with the twins, the more Lucas felt his world tilt and spiral. The laughter that echoed through the hallways mocked his silence. He was their father, yet felt like a ghost in their lives. Grace's presence ignited a fire within him to reclaim what he had overlooked, yet the realization was accompanied by a rising tide of defensiveness. Could he really question everything he had built? The ambition that had once fueled his success had become a choking vine, tightening around his commitment to family. But when he learned of Grace's turbulent past, her struggle as a single mother who defied the odds, his perception shifted. An inexplicable tether formed between their parallel lives. The walls he built against vulnerability began to crack, yearning for warmth but terrified of what it might demand. Could he strip away this single-minded focus on success? Lucas teetered on an emotional precipice, confronted with an agonizing decision that could redefine everything. The stakes were high, and as the reality set in, he was forced to ask what success truly meant. Was it worth the cost at which it had come? The answer lay in the air, weighty and unresolved. As he stood torn between ambition and the family he risked losing forever. Lucas could no longer ignore the tension that coursed through his being as he watched Grace transform his children. Each giggle, each playful squeal from Mia and Ethan struck him like a phantom limb, achingly familiar, yet so tragically distant. He spent countless evenings at his office, drowning himself in numbers and strategies, even as memories of bedtime stories and laughter gnawed at his conscience. This dissonance created a whirlpool within him, pulling at his priorities with an urgency he could no longer dismiss. He returned home that evening, restless and desperate. The silence of the house settled around him, thick and oppressive, contrasted sharply by the echoes of Mia and Ethan's merriment that rippled through the air. Pausing at the threshold of the twins' playroom, he hesitated. Would they even want him there after everything he had missed? Exhaling sharply, he forced his feet to step over the threshold, the reality of his estrangement pulling at him like invisible chains that as he entered. The scene almost colluded against him. Grace sat cross-legged on the floor, her painting supplies sprawled around her like vibrant artillery. Mia and Ethan, faces smeared with colors bright enough to compete with a rainbow, laughed wholeheartedly as Grace coaxed them into creating their own masterpieces. The laughter swelled, and for a fleeting moment, it felt almost intoxicating. Their eyes lit up with excitement, but it felt like a foreign gleam directed away from him. "Dad," Mia piped up, momentarily breaking free of her painting like an impending storm. "Come see." Lucas's heart quickened, an impulsive desire surging as he approached, but hesitance weighed down each step. They had once called for him with such excitement, an invitation to partake in their world, and he had let that slip away. "What are you making, sweetheart?" he asked, keen to grasp the thread of connection. "A castle," Ethan exclaimed, plopping down beside his sister to showcase his vision. Lucas knelt, muscles tensing with the effort of forming earnest interest, and felt the weight of their anticipation heavily upon him. But Grace's eyes darted toward him, holding an intensity he couldn't decipher. Did she know what lay behind his facade? The distance still hovered thick between them. She stood then, brushing off paint from her hands, revealing a calm confidence that only aggravated his insecurities. "Would you like to help them with that?" she suggested, a question wrapped in an invitation that he longed to accept, to engage, but the swirling thoughts drowned the intention. Could he truly contribute anything of substance? His hands, skilled at negotiating high-stakes deals, felt ill-equipped for creativity and connection. Instead of voicing his fears, Lucas managed a nod, almost embarrassed by his silence, and picked up a brush absent-mindedly. As they dipped colors and painted together, he began to feel fragments of warmth, remnants of a childhood connection he had neglected. Yet with every stroke, dread crept back, gnawing at the edges of his resolve. How could he forsake everything that had built his empire? Were his priorities transforming like the canvas before him, requiring a reassessment of what truly mattered? "Dad, look!" Mia interrupted his thoughts, her eyes shimmering with excitement as she pointed at the bright blue tower they had just painted. The innocence in her gaze pierced through the fog of doubt that clung to him. "Yes, it's beautiful," he replied, but his voice trembled with the weight of his own inadequacy. What had he built if he had overlooked the true colors of parental love? In that moment, an unshakable realization struck like a thunderbolt. Success and connection were not mutually exclusive. Maybe it was time to redefine what success meant to him. Just then, Grace gently broke into his reverie. "They need a true king for their castle," she said lightly, her expression both teasing and serious. "Maybe that's where you come in." As Lucas contemplated her words, a rush of determination coursed through him. It was time to confront not only his role as a father but the very essence of his ambitions. The time had come to face what he had turned a blind eye to for too long, the deeply ingrained belief that his worth was tied to his achievements. Would he rise to the occasion, determined to reclaim his legacy as a father before it was too late? Suddenly, an unexpected knock on the door resonated through the room, pulling his focus away from the canvassed castle and into a swirling tempest of uncertainty. Who could it be? And could this disruption change everything he thought he knew? The knock echoed through the air, slicing through the jovial atmosphere like a chill wind through an open door. Lucas felt his heart race, the warmth of creativity evaporating under the weight of uncertainty. He inadvertently stiffened, locking eyes with Grace, whose brow peaked with curiosity. "Should you get that?" she asked, tilting her head subtly, yet her tone bore the weight of unmasked concern. The knock came again, firm yet uncertain. Part of Lucas wanted to ignore it, to recapture the fleeting happiness painted on the canvas before him, but another part, a more primal instinct, drove him to rise. He took a breath, unwillingly retreating from the colorful chaos of the room, and moved toward the front door, each step wrestling with the growing tension in his chest. He yanked the door open, revealing a figure drenched in the evening shadows, an old friend from his past, Mark. His face, rougher than Lucas remembered, now framed a mix of disbelief and pity. "Lucas," he breathed, surprise evident. "I wasn't expecting to see you here." Mark, Lucas replied, the familiarity bringing a flood of memories. Yet, underneath the comfort of their history lay unease. The friendship had drifted as responsibilities monopolized Lucas's life. He stepped aside, gesturing for Mark to enter, forcing himself to digest the implications of this unexpected visit. As Mark strolled into the warm light of the playroom, Lucas felt an acute awareness of the contrast between their lives. This space, filled with laughter and splashes of paint, was worlds apart from Mark's realm. "What brings you around?" Lucas asked, an ambiguous tension underscoring the question. "I came to check on you," Mark said, scanning the room with an intrigued frown. "Heard you've taken on some new ambitions?" Lucas cringed at the word. Ambitions had been his lifeblood, but now they felt more like shackles than goals. "I'm trying to reconnect with my kids," he replied instead, the unfiltered honesty surprising him. The children's laughter floated through the air, a haunting reminder of what he had long neglected. He desperately wanted to heal this fracture. Mark's eyebrows raised, hinting at skepticism. "Isn't that a little late? You've spent years building this empire." The way Mark emphasized the word empire made Lucas bristle. Frustration bubbled in his chest. Did others truly not understand? Reclaiming connection felt paramount, not an afterthought. "I've realized that success is more than just numbers, Mark. It's about presence, influence, and love." "I'm learning that now," Lucas insisted, his voice sharper than intended. "That's good, man," Mark replied, although his tone felt more patronizing than genuine. He took a deep breath, looking around again. "But that's a big shift. Are you going to handle it? The board won't be pleased if you drop the ball." The reminder of professional obligations flickered like a dying ember, igniting his doubts. Could he truly juggle both? The challenge struck at the core of his being. Was he equipped to pivot his focus without jeopardizing the life he had built? Deeply conflicted, Lucas felt his resolve tremble. Should he fully embrace this new path or retreat to the safety of what he knew best? The laughter of Mia and Ethan rang like a bell in his ears, and he couldn't ignore that he wanted to belong in their world. "I can handle it," Lucas spoke, though uncertainty tinted his conviction. He realized the enormity of the truth he had to confront. "But it might take more than I thought." As Mark's face fell into contemplative silence, Lucas's mind raced. He questioned whether friendship, ambition, and fatherhood could coexist. Just then, the door creaked again, and he felt Grace's presence solidify behind him. "Do you need any help?" she asked, her gaze shifting between the two men. He turned to face her, the grounding warmth of her support igniting something within. Could he trust this newfound curiosity in fatherhood? Would stepping into this role transform not just his family, but himself? Before he could formulate a response, Mark interrupted. "I think you've got a lot on your plate, Lucas. Maybe take a minute and think about it." The warning hung ominously in the air, a reflection of Lucas's own fears. Would he have the courage to redefine his existence or remain shackled to the judgment of others? As the room filled with tension, Lucas knew he was at a crossroads. What dawned next would shape not only his future but that of his children, intertwined with the choices he had to make. The door behind him was still open, revealing shadows and echoes of an uncertain future. What lurked just beyond the threshold? As the door swung fully open, a gust of the evening breeze swept through the house, carrying whispers of uncertainty and newfound possibilities with it. Mark remained behind Lucas, his presence a sturdy anchor, yet his words weighed heavier than expected. Lucas needed to confront not only his friends but the specters of the decisions that lay ahead. He felt a surge of determination flash through him, igniting a light in the corners of his mind. The laughter from Mia and Ethan grew louder, beckoning him back to the playroom filled with color and life. He took a deep breath, resolute to tackle this challenge head-on. Could he juggle his responsibilities without completely unraveling the fabric of his meticulously crafted empire? "Grace," he began, his voice steadier now, "I think I need your help. I want to learn how to approach this balancing act, fatherhood and my position at the company." There was vulnerability in admitting this, but he felt it was necessary to embrace the first step toward transformation. Grace's eyes brightened, and Lucas could see a spark of understanding pass between them. "Absolutely. Let us start right after dinner. I have some ideas that might work for both you and the kids." Her enthusiasm warmed him, but it also nudged at a lingering fear within. Was he truly ready for this leap of faith? A determined fire ignited in his gut as he glanced back at Mark, who stood with a furrowed brow. You don't get it, do you? This is about more than just being a father or a businessman. It's about redefining who I am within all these roles. I can't let my past dictate my future any longer. Mark contemplated the words. Something changed in his eyes from skepticism to an almost reluctant admiration. That's a big step, Lucas. Be cautious. You're navigating uncharted waters here. The weight of caution mingled with the possibility of growth. Mark had always been the practical one, but Lucas felt something shift within him, a desire to seize control, to claim his narrative for himself and his children. Amidst the well-meaning warnings, an unsettling curiosity burgeoned within him. What if he could truly be a great father and not lose his edge in business? What if these perceived conflicts could transform him into a more complete version of himself? Yeah, I'll be cautious, Lucas replied, his voice firm. But I won't let fear dictate my actions anymore. As they returned to the playroom, his kids' laughter enveloped him, wrapping around his shoulders like a familiar cloak. Mia and Ethan, unaware of the storm brewing in their father's heart, pulled him into their world with vibrant questions about colors and shapes that they had just painted. In that moment, Lucas felt a mingling of fear and exhilaration. He saw his kids' beaming faces, and it sparked a question within him. Was this the life he had always wanted? Could it be that beyond the realm of corporate success lay even richer realms of fulfillment? Yet, doubt lingered, an insistent whisper in his mind that perhaps he would fail to juggle both worlds. The voices collided, creating an orchestra of anxiety and excitement. Later that evening, as Lucas sat in the fading light, his mind raced with plans. He sketched notes about integrating his work life with parenting, envisioning moments to bond and create lasting memories. Each scribble drove him farther into a newfound vision, one that wasn't pieced together solely of numbers and profits, but of connection and laughter. But just as clarity approached, Mark's earlier words echoed back, reminding him of the burdens waiting to be shouldered. With each ambition charted on paper, he felt the uncertainty ripple through him. Could he truly pursue this hybrid role without losing himself completely? The evening ended, but the question remained, lurking in the shadows. Would he rise to the occasion, or would he falter under the weight of his past? Each moment felt like a countdown to the impending revelation, a reflection of his choices that would define the path forward. The world outside was filled with darkness, mirroring the uncertainties ahead. With dawn creeping ever closer, Lucas realized he stood on the precipice of self-discovery, the light flickering, but resolutely persistent. What awaited him when the sun finally rose? As dawn broke, a narrow beam of sunlight pierced through the window, igniting the playroom's colors with warmth and clarity. Lucas stood at the threshold, his heart racing in rhythm with the distant pulse of a new day. Each ray felt like an invitation, an opportunity to seize and mold the realities waiting for him. Mia and Ethan were already at play, their laughter spilling over like music. The vibrant energy they exuded filled the room and intruded upon the doubts swirling in Lucas's mind. He sensed a shift within himself, an urgency to begin not just participating in their world, but actively shaping it. "Good morning, superstar creators," he said, injecting his voice with an enthusiastic buoyancy that surprised even him. "Daddy, look, we made a spaceship," Mia exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with pride as she pointed to a crayon-drawn masterpiece taped to the wall. "That's incredible," Lucas responded, kneeling down to examine the artwork closely. "What does it do?" "It goes to the moon and picks up alien friends," Ethan chimed in, bouncing on his feet. Lucas's heart swelled. In this moment, their imagination felt boundless and entirely free from the restraints that often weighed him down. He envisioned a day where he could be present with them, bridging the gap between office meetings and midday moments of magic. A quiet thought began to take root. Perhaps today would mark a transition not only in how he approached fatherhood, but in how he viewed every facet of his life. As the morning unfolded, he joined in their games, feeling the weight of his responsibilities temporarily lift in the face of innocence and joy. But beneath the surface lurked the question Mark had left simmering in his thoughts. How would he connect this newfound enthusiasm to the demanding environment of his business? After breakfast, He noticed Grace's arrival, her presence radiating an energy that felt like a guiding star. She brought with her a canvas of ideas packed with interaction, fun, and an understanding of his twin's psychology tools he hadn't even known he needed. "Let us talk about a plan, Lucas," she said, glancing between him and the kids. "Balancing work and family requires structure, but with creativity, it can be seamless. I want to show you how. Are you ready for the first exercise?" Lucas nodded, a mix of dread and anticipation swirling within him. "I am." Grace explained how to incorporate meaningful interactions into everyday routines, ensuring both productivity at work and engagement with the kids. They discussed strategies for transitioning between his two worlds, exploring boundaries he needed to create in order to safeguard the time he would now prioritize for family. With her encouragement, Lucas found himself sketching out not just plans for his interactions with the children, but for how he would streamline his business workflow, so he could minimize the time spent away from home. Who could have imagined that playing pretend with crayons could align his professional ambitions with personal fulfillment? Yet, even as he embraced this new approach, a rising tide of dread pushed against the edges of his newfound enthusiasm. Would the structure they were planning work in the long run? Would his colleagues be supportive of the changes he needed to implement in his life? And how would he respond if things didn't go as he hoped? As Lucas half listened to Grace speak, he found himself unconsciously tracing the shape of the outline that mapped his potential changes. Each line represented a promise he felt pulled to keep, to himself and to his children. But hidden beneath that excitement loomed a familiarity, a fear of failure. His introspection was interrupted by a sudden shriek of delight from Ethan, as he dramatically declared the launch of their imaginary spacecraft. They cheered in tandem, the pure joy of their play illuminating his heart. Yet a knot in his stomach tightened as the weight of his professional responsibilities crashed back into focus. "I cannot afford to fall short," he murmured to himself, already contemplating the hurdles he would face. As he attempted to mesh both worlds, Grace caught his gaze, a knowing look passing between them. "Remember, balance is a dance. You will stumble, but keep moving to the rhythm of your family." Lucas took a deep breath, feeling the swell of determination rising against doubt. The real test was still ahead as he prepared to face the demanding board meeting later that week, where his commitment to both family and business would be scrutinized. Would he present himself as the innovator he envisioned, or as a man stretched too thin to maintain both roles? Doubt lurked just outside the door, shadowing his thoughts as the deconstructed whispers of his past echoed once again. What if he disappointed them? What if he couldn't reclaim control over his narrative? In that moment, Lucas resolved to face what lay ahead with as much courage as the children exhibited in their boundless play. Shifting focus back to the playroom, he whispered to himself, "Time to build my own spaceship." But before he could reach out to take the leap into this ambitious hybrid role, an unexpected phone call pinged at his side, a reminder that the balancing act was truly about to begin. As he glanced down, his heart leaped. He hadn't anticipated who would be on the other end of the line. Lucas's pulse quickened as the name flashed on the screen. Arthur, his mentor and the CEO of the firm. He could sense the gravity of the conversation waiting on the other end. The call felt like the delicate thread connecting his personal aspirations and professional responsibilities, poised to snap or strengthen with a single word. "Lucas," Arthur's voice boomed through the receiver. "I was just reviewing your quarterly projections. We need to discuss what is happening with your team. Can we set a meeting for tomorrow?" "Sure, I can make time," Lucas replied, trying to mask the unease creeping into his tone. Arthur's tone suggested urgency, and the weight of the upcoming board meeting loomed large. "Excellent. And I hope you're prepared with new strategies. We can't afford complacency, not with our competitors breathing down our necks. I'm expecting you to lead from the front this time." With each statement, Lucas felt the air tightening around him. Complacency. Those words hung palpably in the air. Could Arthur, who only weeks ago had praised Lucas's innovative thinking, be possibly questioning his commitment? Desperation clawed at him. He had to prove that he could juggle the complexities of being a father while excelling professionally. This meeting was not just about the quarterly numbers. It was about his identity, his ability to be both the man who drove company profits and the dad who cheered for his children. He felt the urgency to distill the creativity he had just begun to nurture at home into actionable ideas for the board. Perhaps Grace's suggestions on blending both worlds could provide a framework, a new perspective. After hanging up, Lucas shoved the phone into his pocket and took a deep breath, already piecing together a strategy to present to Arthur. Emerging from the playroom, he realized that the lines between work and home were no longer distinct. This was a chance for him to show that a nurturing environment could breed innovation. His fingers danced over the keyboard as he drafted his thoughts. Embrace creativity, foster collaboration, prioritize the team. Each phrase felt like a stepping stone toward a presentation that would align with the new values he was beginning to adopt. The fear that had nestled within him now flared into something more akin to resolve. He was not just fighting for his position, but for a narrative where both family and career flourished. Time bought him clarity as he settled into the evening hours with Mia and Ethan, reading them a story about a daring prince who built fantastical machines. Lucas watched their eyes sparkle in anticipation of the next twist, and underneath it all, a lesson tugged at him. Embrace the journey, accept the mishaps, and understand that the outcome is merely another chapter in the story. "Daddy, can we build a rocket tomorrow?" Ethan asked innocently, his innocence a world away from the pressure Lucas felt encroaching. "We're going to build the best rocket ever," he affirmed, feeling a genuine excitement bloom inside him. "Just you wait." But a splinter of annoyance punctured the optimism. Would the board feel similarly inspired? Would they see his family's creativity as a blueprint for innovative work? The looming meeting felt like a storm cloud, the uncertain success reflecting back on his self-worth as the day wore on. Lucas sat with Grace once more. "I want to integrate the ideas we've worked on into my pitch," he confessed, a new determination in his voice. "But can creativity thrive in a boardroom? I mean, what if they dismiss my thoughts? And worse, what if they disregard what I've learned as a father?" Grace leaned in, her expression earnest. "You have to frame it as an asset, Lucas. You're not just a father. You're an innovator who can bring new life into the corporate culture. Remember, every idea you've nurtured at home has the potential to blossom at work. When you share your vision, make it clear these aren't just whimsical ideas. They're grounded in modern understanding of teamwork and productivity." Echoes of her words resonated within him, as if she were igniting a flexible ideology he had not yet fully grasped. The duality of his life could be the very core of his arguments. As they wrapped up their session, Lucas's phone buzzed again. This time, it was an email, a reminder to prepare for the board meeting, a countdown timer ticking ominously in the background of his mind. Would he craft a message that blended the tender lessons from home with the hard-edged expectations of the corporate world? More importantly, would he have the faith in himself and his dual roles? The reality hung heavy. He was at a precipice, caught between personal discovery and professional scrutiny. Tomorrow's meeting could very well determine whether the balance he sought was a fleeting dream or a sustainable reality that in just a few hours, the moment of judgment would arrive, shifting his narrative forever. The moon hung low in the night sky, casting a silver glow over Lucas's cluttered desk. He hadn't moved from his spot since the call ended. The weight of the message settled heavily within him. Each word from Arthur echoed viciously, resurrecting memories of corporate challenges that felt daunting. Yet, beneath the pressure, a flicker of resolve ignited. He sat upright, his eyes darting across the pages of notes scattered around him. Strategies swirled, tangled in his mind. He grasped a pen and began to outline the framework Grace had suggested. Integrate family creativity into corporate strategy. The notion felt radical, and yet undeniably compelling. What could he showcase that would embody his children's imagination? He shook off doubt and pinned down every idea that sprouted from his recent experiences with Mia and Ethan. Building a rocket was just a metaphor not only for their project, but for the expansive potential they'd unleash if they combined their childlike wonder with adult pragmatism. The more he wrote, the clearer the path became. Lucas envisioned a presentation that showcased not only numbers, but narratives. He could relate the principles of teamwork developed in his home life to the office environment. Collaborating with his children had taught him that innovation arises from playfulness and trial. Would the board dismiss the radical synthesis of ideas from a father's heart? An image of a conference room flooded his thoughts, each board member's eyes scrutinizing him. Here he was, poised to reveal that the foundation of creativity could stem from the messiest corners of his life. His children's laughter and stubborn questions would be at the center of strategy discussions. Lucas squashed a rising wave of anxiety as he entertained the thought of their skeptical faces. This could either dismantle him or elevate his career. A soft knock at the door pulled Lucas from his spiraling thoughts. Grace entered, her presence a welcome contrast to his tumultuous internal dialogue. "I thought I might find you here," she said with a playful smile. "Any breakthroughs?" "Possibly," Lucas replied, the words tumbling out lighter than he felt. "I think I might blend everything I learned from home into the pitch. If they can see how creativity influences productivity, maybe." "Exactly," she cut in, eager to amplify his excitement. "Show them that innovation doesn't always come from suits and statistics. Present your family experiences as a way to reshape the company culture." Fueled by her encouragement, Lucas recounted his recent experiences, painting vivid pictures of late-night brainstorming sessions and laughter-filled messes in the playroom. He felt her belief bolster his confidence. Yet, doubt whispered harshly as he laid out his plan. What if merging these domains fell flat? Would they see the merit in his merging of fatherhood and corporate leadership? He could already envision the divide forming if the board regarded his approach as amateurish. Grace studied him, aware of the conflict brewing within. "Lucas, this isn't fluff. It's called future-oriented thinking. You have the chance to redefine what leading looks like. Trust in that instinct." Suddenly, a wave of conviction washed over him, driven by his desire not just to succeed, but to carve a legacy that also included his children's experiences. He was ready to redefine failure and embrace risk, to confront complacency head-on. This was his moment to transform a struggle into an opportunity. The walls of his office felt like they were closing in, reflecting the urgency of the hour. As Lucas meticulously arranged his notes, a knot of anxiousness gripped his stomach. The meeting loomed closer, a ticking clock in the back of his mind reminding him that his chance was fleeting. The hour for his presentation would arrive soon, and he needed not just information but a narrative that would spark inspiration. As he left the office behind, stepping into the bright lights of the kitchen where Mia and Ethan played, he understood that shaping his identity was about embracing both elements of his life with confidence. "Look, Dad," Mia called, holding up a crayon rocket, bright colors smeared across white paper. "That's amazing. Let us get even bigger ideas," he encouraged. The future possibilities teemed in his mind, and just as he was basking in this newfound clarity, his phone buzzed once more. A message illuminated the screen, a reminder that the board meeting was set for tomorrow at 9 a.m. Was he truly prepared? As his children's excitement intertwined with his own simmering resolve, he realized tomorrow held not only his career future, but the evolving narrative of what it meant to balance ambition and nurture. The moment of truth approached with a clarity that shook him to the core. Did he have what it took to redefine leadership? Could he step into the boardroom, letting his vulnerabilities guide his vision? As Lucas stood at the threshold of decision, the dawn of a new opportunity catalyzed within him. Would his dual roles finally converge harmoniously, or would the realities of the corporate world shatter his aspirations? He took one last breath before diving into the roles he played, ready to reshape his narrative because tomorrow would redefine everything. The sun broke over the horizon, casting a warm glow that filled Lucas's home with an inviting light. He had barely slept, the weight of the upcoming presentation lingering heavily on his eyelids. As he washed his face in the bathroom, he caught sight of himself in the mirror, his reflection a complex mix of determination and dread. This was it. Today, he would step into the unknown, challenged to draw connections between his professional life and the creativity that blossomed in his domestic world. After a hurried breakfast, he found himself enveloped by the chaotic joy of his children. Mia and Ethan were busy constructing what they deemed a spaceship, their laughter punctuating the stillness of morning. Lucas's heart swelled with pride, yet beneath it lay a gnawing fear. Could he articulate to the board how these moments of unrestrained imagination fuel a corporate environment that thrived on creative solutions? As they played, interactions unfolded akin to the board meetings he dreaded. Mia's questions poked through the facade of Lucas's focused attention. "Dad, why can't we just fly to space like the astronauts in the books?" Her innocence shattered any remaining semblance of corporate polish within him. Lucas swallowed hard. "Because, sweetheart, spaceships are complicated," he replied, not wanting to admit that the true complexity lay within the broader question of navigating life as challenges. "Easier than your job," Ethan chimed in, grinning mischievously. It stung, but Lucas couldn't help but laugh. Their candor was disarming, reminding him that in his quest for professionalism, he had overlooked the value of pure, unadulterated imagination. In retaliation against this internal tension, Lucas resolved to take these moments of laughter into the boardroom with him. He imagined standing there, channeling Mia's hip-swaying enthusiasm as he presented the idea of creativity as a corporate driver. Pulling his thoughts back together, he began to detail the framework of his presentation on paper. He jotted down specific anecdotes, how Mia's unyielding belief in their imaginary rocket ship had caused him to rethink his professional methodologies, how Ethan's insistence on trying every combination of colors ignited a newfound perspective on innovation within his team. As he reached for his bag to gather his things, a text popped up on his phone. It was from Grace with a simple message: "Trust yourself. You have the creativity of your kids inside you." Those words unfurled a sense of affirmation deep within. He was beginning to realize that what he saw as a collision of worlds could instead be their merging, a symphony of home and work boundaries dissolving into a richer narrative. His children's world could lend weight to his boardroom arguments. But as he stepped out the door and faced the busy street, doubt crept in once more. The grand conference room prepped for his presentation loomed like a poorly drawn rocket, wobbly and untrustworthy in his mind. What would Arthur say when faced with this personal approach? Would he dismiss it as whimsical? Navigating through the sea of people, Lucas's mind raced. His path to the office had always been one of structure and excellence framed in logic. Yet today felt different. Today required a leap of faith into something new, something personal. Perhaps this was the very essence of leadership he sought to convey. The ability to embrace uncertainty while still moving forward. Murmurs of the corporate elite filled the hallways, and the weight of their collective gaze felt like boulders aligned against him. Lucas took a long, deep breath before stepping into the elevator. The soft ding echoed when the doors opened, and there was no turning back. He realized he was affected no longer by fear of failure, but possibility. With a resolute heart, he stepped onto the boardroom floor, determined not just to present facts but to share a story. If he could intertwine his experience as a father with his role as a leader, the rewards could be unprecedented. But as he outlined his approach, the specter of skepticism loomed. The thought of how easily they could dismiss his ideas ignited a rush of adrenaline. Back against the wall, he waited for the other members to arrive, the air heavy with anticipation. Would they see the value in his narrative, or would he find himself faltering under their scrutiny? Suddenly, the door swung open, revealing the familiar faces of the board. Today wasn't just another meeting. It was a confrontation with a critical truth that challenged everything he'd ever known about leadership. Could he truly be the bridge between creativity and corporate success? As they settled into their seats, Lucas's gaze drifted to Grace's reassuring smile, anchoring his resolve for what lay ahead. Today would redefine not just his career, but the way he perceived his own dual identity. With that thought, he cleared his throat, ready to transform his anxiety into ambition. What would they think when he shared his idea? Lucas steadied himself, knowing his next words could either spark inspiration or extinguish his dream. As he opened his mouth, the moment hung on a precipice. Was he prepared to leap? The words hung cryptically in the air, poised between Lucas's aspirations and the board's collective skepticism. As he opened his mouth, his mind whirled with possibilities. What if he faltered? What if they sneered? Nevertheless, the whispers of Mia and Ethan's laughter anchored him, infusing a sense of playfulness into this tense moment. He began, addressing the board with a unique angle. Imagine a workplace that functions like a child's imagination, he proposed. Heads turned and eyebrows lifted. He felt the intensity of their curiosity, a flicker of intrigue igniting in the dispassionate air. Creativity is not just an add-on, it's essential. Children, in their play, demonstrate problem-solving in ways that corporate culture often dismisses as frivolous. Lucas delved deep into the narratives he had crafted, recalling his children's unyielding enthusiasm for their spaceship project. Mia once told me, "Dad, you can't give up if a rocket doesn't take off the first time." How profound is that? The story broke through the usual barriers. He watched as they fell into a rhythm of engagement, intrigued by his blend of personal and professional insight. Yet, amid growing receptiveness, the toughest questions emerged. Arthur narrowed his eyes, his skepticism a palpable wall. "Are you suggesting we prioritize imagination over realistic projections? The market is complex, Lucas. We need facts, not fantasies," he challenged, his tone dripping with disbelief. Lucas felt a flush of adrenaline pool in his chest. Arthur's words rang true. The stakes were high. His thoughts spiraled briefly into self-doubt. Had he taken on too much? Was this truly the way forward? But as the memories of his children's laughter reverberated in his mind, he steadied himself. "Not at all, Arthur," he replied, his voice unwavering. "What I'm advocating is a balanced approach. It's about harnessing that imagination, inspiring risk-taking without losing grip on reality. Imagine if our team could draw from that childlike ingenuity. That very spirit that leads to groundbreaking innovations." The board reacted, some exchanging thoughtful glances, while others frowned at the unconventional idea. Lucas's heart raced. He was dancing on a precipice where dream and logic intersected. "Let us consider this. When was the last time you engaged in brainstorming that felt authentic, unrestrained? When was the last time we allowed our creativity to spill over into our strategies?" He surveyed the room, searching for support amongst the raised eyebrows. "We're not merely aiming for success. We're striving for adaptability in an ever-evolving marketplace." A silence filled the space, as if everyone were weighing their reactions against the audacity of his words. Lucas leaned forward, channeling the determination of a father advocating not just for his children, but for the very essence of innovation. He envisioned a world where adults could embrace that joyous abandon, finding solutions that mimic the inventiveness of childhood. Slowly, hands began to rise. Questions emerged from unexpected corners, challenges tempered with intrigue. His peers were wrestling with their own preconceived notions of leadership and potential. Beneath the discourse, Lucas sensed a shift. He glimpsed the possibility of transformation not just for himself, but for the entire corporate landscape. Yet, as the meeting drew on and doubts resurfaced, a new specter joined the gathering: the fear of backlash from those deeply entrenched in tradition. What would they make of his impassioned plea? His willingness to merge the personal with the corporate might not just threaten established norms, but also define his standing within the company. "Lucas," Arthur's voice cut through the growing tension. "If we adopt this approach, where do we draw the line? How do we ensure productivity amid this freedom? What is the tangible outcome?" There it was, a line, drawn not just in the sand, but built from solid corporate foundations. Lucas felt cornered. The challenge was escalating. His creativity was under fire, but perhaps therein lay the very opportunity for growth he craved. This was no longer just about a presentation. It could swiftly evolve into a battle for his vision, and for something deeper, innovation. His resolve hardened. He shifted gears, diving deeper into the specifics that could support his vision. What if we initiated a pilot program? A small team adopting this methodology for a quarter, with measurable outputs, allowing us to study the actual impacts of creativity? As he continued to outline his strategy, Lucas could feel new energy rising. But could he sustain this momentum? Would the board embrace this risk, or would it signify the end of his bold approach? The tension in the room remained thick as he concluded his argument. He realized this was just the beginning, a confrontation with the comfortable and familiar, pushing against the barriers of conventionality. But what lay ahead? Would the board decide to stretch their understanding of success, or would they cling to the status quo? Lucas's fate lingered on the edge, teetering precariously between innovation and tradition. The uncertainty sparked within him, whispering daring thoughts. What if his journey was more radical than he had ever imagined? What if today he would discover not just a new professional path, but a deeper revelation of who he could become? As the members exhaled, the weight of their response remained unspoken. Lucas braced himself. The moment of truth was imminent, something he had inadvertently sought since stepping into the boardroom. Would he find a newfound place among them, or would he stand isolated, scrutinized by the very people he aimed to inspire? The tension in the room was palpable as the final words of Lucas's presentation hung in the air, an amalgamation of apprehension and hope coiling around him like an invisible thread. He had poured himself into this moment, intertwining the joy and creativity he experienced as a father with the sharp insights required for corporate success. But as faces turned toward him, he felt the weight of their expectations pressing down like a heavy lead blanket. Arthur's scrutinizing gaze cut through the lingering silence, his demeanor a mix of skepticism and intrigue. "Lucas," he began, his tone steady yet unforgiving, "you've presented a compelling case. However, innovation requires more than sentiment. How do we translate this into actionable metrics?" Deep breath. Lucas felt the weight of the moment settle. This was the crossroads he had not just anticipated but craved. "What if we start with a pilot program?" he proposed again, leaning into his renewed confidence. "We implement a creativity-driven project, measure its outcomes, and document the synergy between innovation and productivity. Let the numbers speak for themselves." As Lucas looked around the room, he was taken aback by the shift in focus among his colleagues. The raised eyebrows were slowly beginning to relax, the stiffness of their postures wavering as curiosity sparked new discussions. He continued to articulate his vision, emphasizing how societal changes in work culture required an embrace of creativity, leveraging childhood ingenuity to reignite passion in their corporate strategies. "I know it feels unconventional," he added, infusing sincerity into his voice, "but I've experienced its potency firsthand within my family. Parenting has taught me that success is deeply relational. If we foster joy and creativity at work, we invite innovation that echoes those values." There was a glimmer of recognition in a few faces, but Lucas knew he needed more than fleeting interest. He needed commitment. So he rebounded with stories of Mia and Ethan, how their playful exploration led to genuine conversations much like the collaborative challenges within the corporate landscape. Encouraged by the opening, he pressed on. "An inspired team can disrupt stagnant cycles. Let's empower our employees to feel the same excitement I see in my children." The energy in the room shifted as his peers began murmuring opinions, discussions igniting like matches against flint. It was transforming from a mere presentation to a collaborative exploration of possibilities. Lucas held his breath, riding the crest of anticipation, hoping to guide them over the threshold to acceptance. They's ideas wove into a tapestry of possibilities. Arthur, now contemplative rather than confrontational, raised a hand. "Let us consider a structured approach, with clear benchmarks to evaluate success." "I can support that initiative if you compile a proposal," he said, his tone less a dismissal and more an acknowledgement of potential. Relief and renewed vigor flooded through Lucas. He had advocated for a vision rooted in authenticity, and now, the veneer of skepticism was beginning to crack. "I'll draft a proposal tomorrow incorporating data collection methods along with creative benchmarks," he assured them, infused with a newfound sense of shared purpose. "Good. And keep us updated on the team's engagement," Arthur concluded, as he shifted his focus to the rest of the board. The discussions continued, transforming into brainstorming sessions that felt electric, the collaborative spirit a palpable undercurrent. As the meeting wrapped up, Lucas emerged not just as a participant, but as a leader, buoyed by genuine support that resonated in the newfound camaraderie. Each step out of the boardroom felt like a tangible achievement, a testimony to his growth from simply a corporate figure to someone who embraced both responsibilities as a father and a professional. Back at home, as he walked through the door to the vibrant chaos of Mia and Ethan's creativity, he reflected on how significantly everything had changed. The weight and worry he once carried had been replaced with a resolve he never knew he had. In the tender moments shared with Mia and Ethan, he saw echoes of his boardroom triumph, the threads of creativity and connection unraveling into the fabric of all aspects of his life. "Did you build anything new today?" Ethan eagerly asked, the innocent enthusiasm lighting Lucas's heart even further. "Absolutely," he smiled, meeting their eager gazes. "I just helped build something big. It's for everyone, including you too." As laughter filled the air, Lucas reveled in the realization that success no longer just meant numbers or accolades. It was about fostering a legacy. From this junction onward, He understood he had not only conquered the boardroom, but transformed himself, establishing a solid confidence that intertwined every role he cherished. The triumph wasn't merely a professional accomplishment. It was a personal renaissance. Lucas had stepped beyond the cage of ambition, proving that genuine fulfillment rises from the rich soil of connectedness, legacy, and shared creativity. This day marked the beginning of something truly special, a commitment to embodying both father and leader with integrity and joy. Lucas sighed deeply, the contentment washing over him like a warm tide, ready to face whatever the future would bring. So, were you inspired by Lucas's journey? You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm seriously. It makes a difference. Comment below your thoughts and theories about Lucas's transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion like Lucas did. The moment to show your support is now. Don't wait even one more second.